They called it a little job. They say the sharpest betrayal doesn't come from strangers, but from the people who know you best, the ones who mistake silence for weakness. My name is Natalie Hayes. I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how my family mocked my work, dismissed my dreams, and handed everything to my brother. What they never realized was that while they laughed, I was quietly building an empire, and one day I would own theirs. Every Friday night, I sat at the long marble table in my parents' waterfront estate. Waves crashed softly outside, chandeliers glittered above, and the air was heavy with the scent of roasted figs and sea salt. To outsiders, it looked like a scene of luxury and harmony, but inside that room I was invisible. At the head of the table sat my father, William Hayes, a titan of real estate. To his right, my mother, Eleanor, a woman whose sharp smile could cut glass. And across from me, basking in their adoration, was my brother Adrian, polished, confident, their pride and joy. He wore his success like a tailored suit, laughing boldly as if the world itself bent to his charm. Then there was me, Natalie, the overlooked one in a faded blouse, sleeves rolled up from long hours of work. "More wine, Adrian?" the maid asked gently. Adrian waved, barely glancing up. "Nothing for Natalie," my mother added, her tone dripping with pity. "She's got that little gig to run back to." That little gig. The word stung every time. I traced my thumb across my phone under the table as a notification lit the screen. Aurora Ventures acquisition, contracts finalized. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face neutral. They thought my job was some cubicle clerical work, processing rental complaints in rundown buildings. What they didn't know was that I had built Aurora quietly, deal by deal, until it had become the backbone of property management across the coast. But to them, I was just Natalie, the quiet daughter who would never match Adrian's glow or my father's empire. The table glittered with scallops and champagne, but the real feast was their smug certainty that I would always be small. My father cleared his throat, slipping 2 folders from a leather briefcase. His platinum watch flashed in the light. His eyes rested on Adrian, full of pride, before sliding over me. Flat, indifferent. "Your grandmother's trust has been finalized," he announced. Adrian's grin widened. He tapped his fingers on the table, already savoring his victory. My father pushed the thicker folder toward him. "You've earned your place at Hayes Holdings. The estate, the coastal villa, and the family trust are yours." Adrian leaned back in his chair, smugness radiating. "Perfect. Claire and I will move in after the engagement party." Then he turned toward me, voice clipped. "Natalie, they set aside something modest for you. A city loft. Sensible enough, I guess." He pushed a thin folder in my direction. Adrian chuckled. "A loft? Really? What's your big accomplishment again? Filing maintenance requests for tenants?" My mother nodded, her diamond earrings glittering. "Honestly, Natalie, you could have joined Hayes Holdings. You could have done something real." I sipped my water, keeping my voice calm. "I manage properties," I said quietly. Another ping lit my phone. Aurora Ventures press release. 8 minutes until live. Inside, my blood was roaring, but on the surface, I remained still. Adrian smirked. "Be grateful, Nat. That loft is more than you've managed on your own." My father leaned closer, voice dipped in condescension. "We could find you a role at Hayes Holdings, something entry-level, maybe a start." My phone buzzed again, urgent. The deal was live. "I need to take this," I murmured, standing. My mother sighed loudly. "Always dramatic. Your little job can wait. This is family time." I stepped onto the balcony, the ocean wind whipping my hair. I pressed answer. "Natalie," my COO said, her voice sharp with excitement. "Aurora's acquisition is complete. All 200 properties are yours, including the full Hayes Holdings portfolio." I froze, staring back through the glass doors at my family's laughing faces. "Excellent," I said, my voice even. When I walked back in, Adrian's smirk faltered. My father looked up, suspicious. "What was that?" he asked. I tucked my phone away. "Just work," I said smoothly, sitting down. The TV above the fireplace suddenly flashed a breaking news alert. In a stunning turn, Aurora Ventures, led by CEO Natalie Hayes, has secured a $4.1 billion acquisition, including Hayes Holdings' cornerstone assets. The room went silent. Adrian's glass slipped, wine spilling across the trust papers. My father's jaw fell slack. My mother clutched her bracelet. They turned to me, stunned. "What is this?" my father demanded. I lifted my chin. "It's what happens when the daughter you dismissed builds something bigger than you ever imagined. The empire they never saw coming." The silence around the table was crushing, broken only by the news anchor's steady voice echoing through the villa. In a landmark deal, Aurora Ventures now controls over 200 elite properties across the region, including all assets formerly held by Hayes Holdings. At just 30 years old, CEO Natalie Hayes has reshaped the industry. Adrian's face drained of color. He looked at me like I was a stranger. "No. This isn't possible." I leaned back, calm, the weight of years of scorn lifting from my chest. "Possible? Adrian, it's already done. While you were busy hosting ribbon cuttings and polishing your watch collection, I built Aurora from the ground up. The software you mocked, the one you said was a waste of time, that's now the operating system behind every major property firm, including Hayes Holdings." My mother's voice trembled. "All this time, that project you hid away?" I nodded. "Yes, the same one you laughed at while praising Adrian's real work. That waste of time funded my first purchases. I moved quietly, piece by piece, until I owned more than you could dream." Adrian slammed his hand against the table. "The villa, the trust, they're mine." I tilted my head, almost pitying him. "Not anymore. As of 10 minutes ago, they belong to Aurora." On the screen, my photograph filled the frame. Natalie Hayes, self-made billionaire. My father's chair screeched back as he stood, his voice jagged. "You didn't do this alone. Who bankrolled you? Who pulled the strings?" I laughed softly. "No one. Just me. And all the mistakes you refused to see. The shady deals, the structural flaws Adrian overlooked, the money quietly bleeding from your empire. I knew. That's why I struck when I did." The door opened, and Tessa, my COO, stepped inside with a tablet. She nodded at me before turning to my stunned family. "Ms. Hayes now controls every Hayes property, including this villa, effective immediately." Adrian's mouth opened, then closed. His perfect composure shattered. My father's hand shook around the useless trust papers. My mother stared at me as if she no longer recognized her own daughter. "You never looked at me," I said quietly, my voice steady but sharp as glass. "You saw me as a failure, a shadow compared to Adrian. While you handed him a crumbling throne, I built a kingdom." The news anchor's voice cut through again. "Aurora Ventures' acquisition includes the prized Seraphine Tower, long plagued by mismanagement. Insiders call this the deal of the decade." Adrian's polished mask cracked completely. "This can't stand. It won't." Tessa's tone was professional, but unyielding. "It's legally airtight. Ms. Hayes owns everything." The room was heavy with defeat. 3 weeks later, I stood in my new office overlooking the cliffside ocean. Aurora's crest gleamed on every building that once bore my family's name. The empire they thought I was unworthy of now carried mine. My parents tried to reach out. Adrian begged, then raged, then begged again. I offered them rentals, at market rate. The very loft they had mocked was still available, a cruel irony. I stood at the window, the horizon stretching endlessly before me. Their laughter, once a chain around my neck, was nothing but an echo now. They thought success was their inheritance, their birthright. But success isn't given. It's built in the shadows, forged when no one believes in you. And when it's revealed, it doesn't just rise, and it takes everything with it. I raised a glass of water, plain and unadorned, to the horizon. Here's to the little job, I whispered. To the work they mocked. To the silence they mistook for weakness. To the empire they never saw coming. And now I'll ask you, if you were me, standing here after years of being invisible, would you forgive them? Or let them drown in the wreckage of their own arrogance? Thanks for listening to my story. And don't forget to subscribe to Tales Between Time for more stories that cut deep and stay with you.